Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's good. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies Win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies defeated the Orlando Magic on Tuesday night. They held on for a 113-108 victory. They've now won 7 consecutive games. This is their third winning streak of at least 7 games this season. They've never had 3 independent winning streaks of 7 or more games in the same season before. The Grizzlies got out to a big lead. They led 39-17. They were ahead by 23 points in the third quarter. And then it was kind of a bumpy, rocky end to the game, but they hold on. They get their franchise record 33rd home win of the season. They're now 33-5, remaining the NBA's best home team. Desmond Bane scored 31. Made a bunch of free throws in the final 30 seconds to maybe pad that scoring stat. Xavier Tillman had a career-high 20 points, and the Grizzlies keep charging to the postseason. This game was notable. First game of a back-to-back, so Ja Morant did not play. He was held out with a sore thigh. We can go ahead and infer that was a return-to-play conditioning thing. First game of a back-to-back. Taylor Jenkins said he was expected to play in tonight's game against the Clippers and, of course, in Friday's game against the Clippers. Big picture-wise, the win keeps the Grizzlies, or moves the Grizzlies, 3 games ahead of the Kings for the 2 seed. The Grizzlies have 7 games left. Both teams have 7 games left. If the Grizzlies win 4 of their final 7, the Kings would have to go undefeated to catch them. The Kings still look like they're going to have the tiebreaker, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's going to go to conference record, but I definitely could be mistaken. I've been mistaken before. But the Grizzlies, if they win probably 4 of their final 7, are certainly going to be the second seed. Their magic number is 6. So any combination of Grizzlies wins and Kings losses that equals 6 will clinch the 2 seed for the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, in their final 7 games, they play the Clippers, of course, twice tonight and on Friday night. By the way, on Friday night, if you're in Nashville, that's a Grizzlies watch party in Nashville. We will be at Noble's Beer Hall at 7 p.m. giving away Grizzlies prizes, having drink specials, having a good time. Then the Grizzlies play at the Bulls this coming Sunday, then home game against the Blazers, and then in the season on a 3-game road trip at the Pelicans, at the Bucks, and at the Thunder. All 3 of those road games could conceivably be difficult. The Pels have stuff to play for. The Thunder have things to play for. Maybe the Bucks could take it easy. They'll probably have the 1 seed wrapped up. The Kings' remaining schedule looks very, very easy, despite having several road games. They're playing back-to-back games at the Trailblazers. The Trailblazers are currently tanking very hard. Then the Kings play the Spurs at home, then play at the Pelicans, at the Mavericks. Those could be tough. Home game against the Warriors, and their final game is at the Nuggets. Again, the Nuggets would have the 1 seed wrapped up. They're probably going to be resting guys. So the Grizzlies will probably need to go hard for the final 7 games. If you think if you win 4 of those, you're sitting pretty, and you'll have that 2 seed wrapped up. Who you play, again, no way to know. But this win, not the prettiest affair. The Grizzlies struggled in that fourth quarter, only made 6 of 16 field goal attempts as a team. I mean, Bane, yes, he scored 16 of his 31 points in the fourth quarter. He attempted all 14 of his career-high 14 free throw attempts in the fourth quarter. But he also committed 3 turnovers and was just 1 for 5 from the field. So not his finest hour. The Grizzlies basically should have wrapped this up. It felt like they'd wrapped it up multiple times. Like Dillon Brooks had, I would call it a bad game. His elite shooting numbers over the previous 5 games in the Grizzlies win streak, his low usage, those were thrown right out the window. Maybe with Ja Morant, he's again asked to do a little bit more. He was struggling from the field, but he did make 2 very difficult buckets. He made both of his field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. A 3-pointer with just under 4 minutes to go, which should have iced the game. It put the Grizzlies up 13. And then he made like a 12-foot fall away, all self-created, that put the Grizzlies up 12 with like a minute and 10 seconds or so to go in the game. And you'd feel like we have it wrapped up, but of course the Grizzlies fumbled their final 1 minute. So Dillon makes both of his field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. Don't get carried away. I was arguing with some of my Patreon supporters in our Grizzlies channel about, like, we weren't arguing. We were discussing it about whether or not Dillon is clutch. His clutch numbers this season are technically good. 9 for 17 in the arbitrarily defined clutch time this season. But clutch stats are so, I think, meaningless. Dillon's overall numbers in fourth quarters this year, he's 35% in fourth quarters. So I don't know what conclusions you want to draw. I do know the Grizzlies half-court offense bogged down. Tyus Jones had a rough game. Desmond Bane was rough from the field. Everyone but Dillon in the fourth quarter against the Magic was 4 for 14. And so Dillon's 2 big shots were very needed. But I don't think we can call Dillon like he makes them when he needs to kind of guy. I just think he can get a shot, and sometimes those shots go in. Bane finished the game with 6 turnovers. Again, as primary ball handler, he has had moments where he struggles, where the downhill does not work for him. Hopefully, this will be the last game of the season where he has to do so much primary ball handling because Ja Morant will be there. Tyus Jones missed all 7 of his 3-point attempts and finished with 7 points, had 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers. Tyus is attempting to become the first player ever to lead the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio for 5 straight seasons. Jaren Jackson Jr., efficient offensive game, good defensive game, has 16 points and 10 rebounds. That's his 7th double-double of the season. That matches his career high for most double-doubles with what he did last year. He's done it this season in fewer games. Jaren blocked 3 more shots. He's now tied his own franchise record for most blocks in a season. He will attempt to break that tonight against the Clippers. His block percentage on the season, which is percentage of the opponent's 2-point field goal attempts he blocks when he's on the court. His block percentage right now is currently the 4th highest ever, only trailing 3 seasons from Manute Bull. So that's something to monitor as the season comes to its conclusion. A guy who had, I think, a good game again, who's continued his hot shooting, is Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard went off in the second quarter. Again, Luke Kennard made 12 straight 3-pointers at home, stretching back, of course, to the Rockets game where he made 10 3-pointers. Luke Kennard had 16 points off the bench. He has now scored in double figures 8 straight games off the bench. That has matched the longest double-digit scoring streak for a bench player this season on the Grizzlies. Brandon Clark also had 8 straight games off the bench. In Kennard's last 8 games, he's made 35 3-pointers. That is tied for the most threes in any 8-game span for a bench player in Grizzlies franchise history. That is tied with D'Anthony Melton from last season. And basically, D'Anthony Melton did it the exact same time of the season. The Grizzlies finished last year on an incredible scoring run and on an incredible 3-point shooting run. The Grizzlies in this game made 12 3-pointers. They have now made 10 or more threes in 11 straight games. That is tied for the longest such streak in Grizzlies franchise history. We've given Canard a lot of credit, I think rightfully so, for the Grizzlies increasing their three-point output and knocking down a bunch of threes as a team. I mean, right now, Canard is 55 for 100 from three as a Grizzly. I'm having a lot of fun tracking how quickly Canard is rising in the all-time franchise ranks in made threes. Apologies if anyone out there finds this too silly, but I like it. In the last two games, Canard has passed Brandon Clark, Tayshaun Prince, and Bruno Caboclo in most made three-pointers. That is in 19 games. He is now 64th in franchise history in most made threes. He's actually tied for 64th, tied with David Roddy and Ben McLemore, one behind Kyle Lowry and Solomon Hill. So Luke Kennard keeps drilling three-pointers, and he's been this needed offensive boost for the second unit. And now for the season, of the 13 Grizzlies rotation players to play at least 400 minutes, which that basically means Canard has played the fewest minutes of those 13 players. This is filtering out Jake LaRavia, Vince Williams Jr., Kennedy Chandler, Kenneth Lofton Jr. I think that's all. But of the 13 rotation players on the Grizzlies right now, the Grizzlies have their best offensive rating when Luke Kennard is on the court. They also have their worst defensive rating when he's on the court. This is the Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. At the very least, the numbers are positive. The Grizzlies are winning the minutes that Luke Kennard is on the court. The Ja and Canard minutes together, we didn't see any last night, of course, but those have been very, very good offensively and overall net rating. The Canard and Bane minutes, these are two of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. They have been very, very good. Now, I think it is fair to ask how much of the Canard stuff is sustainable. My man is shooting 55% from three as a Grizzly. That's going to tail off. The Ja and Luke minutes, the team only rebounds 42% of all missed shots. That is really, really bad. The cleaning the glass numbers have the Grizzlies as a very respectable plus 6.4 points per 100 possessions when Canard's on the court. With an elite offense, they're saying that offensive rating is in the 97th percentile, and a not good defense, which is in the 30th percentile. And their defensive rebounding as a team is in the 1st percentile. Absolutely atrocious. And again, I'm not blaming Luke Kennard for the team's rebounding woes. Luke Kennard seems to be a competent team rebounder. In the 19 games, I've watched him very, very closely, and looking at his career stats, he seems like he's an okay rebounder. But, and this is not Luke's fault, the rest of the Grizzlies, bad rebounders. The Grizzlies basically don't have any plus rebounders, and thus, when Canard also plays, and he's playing with guys who are not very good rebounders, that's when the overall team rebounding numbers stink. Now, if Canard makes 55% of his three-pointers, none of it matters. You're going to outscore your opponents. Like in this game, the Grizzlies clearly not great second half. The Magic hurt them in a familiar fashion. Second chance points. The Magic outscored the Grizzlies 22-9 on second chance points. This is a game after the Hawks outscored the Grizzlies 31-9 in second chance points. This is not a Luke Kennard criticism. This is an overall team concern. Since there's been no Steven Adams, the Grizzlies are a bottom 5 team in allowing second chance points, a bottom 5 team in allowing offensive rebounds. In their last 15 games, the Grizzlies are last in opponent offensive rebounds allowed. In their last 15 games, they're second to last in opponent second chance points. Now, maybe I'm overemphasizing this. If you don't miss that many shots, you're going to have fewer second chance opportunities for yourself. You don't need second chance points if your shots go in. If you play very, very good field goal percentage defense, if you're holding your opponent to some bad shooting numbers, well, then there are more offensive rebounds for them to pick up. There are more second chance scoring opportunities for those teams. And of course, the Grizzlies have won 10 of 11. They've won 12 straight at home. By the way, the franchise record for most consecutive home wins is 14. So if they can sweep the Clippers, they'll match their longest streak in franchise history of home wins. So they've won games. During the win streak, they're not doing a good job in allowing their opponents to have second chance points. So maybe, again, it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm overemphasizing this. I feel a little bit like Mirabel in Encanto saying there are cracks in the walls. So I don't know if it's going to be a legit problem when you play the good teams. I think it is. But again, hopefully the team will keep drilling three-pointers and maybe it won't really matter. As far as the rest of the bench outside of Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama had a nice game and picked up 9 points. He made his only 3-point attempt. Also had a lot of plays with, we'll call it flair. He did his damage with panache. He had 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, a block, and an assist, and seemed to be having a good time doing it. This was a good Santi game. We've had, mainly not impressive games outside of that one kind of career night he had a few games ago. Santi hasn't really been having his best moments of the season, but he was very, very solid in this one. Basically the only maybe positive guy off the bench, although that might be once again underrating John Konchar's contributions. Canard with a very Canard line, 15 minutes played, 1 point scored, and was second in plus-minus. He was a +9. He also picked up 2 blocks, 2 assists, a steal, and 3 rebounds. So there was activity from Canard. Roddy with a forgettable night. He was scoreless in his 11 minutes, missed all 5 of his field goal attempts. The Grizzlies went with a 9-man rotation. I was wondering, I think most of us are wondering, when Ja Morant doesn't play, does that mean they shorten the rotation? Would this have been an opportunity for Kenneth Lofton Jr. to play in the first half again? It was not. They just went 9 deep. Also, I should say, in Tillman's career night and Tillman having 2 huge games in a row, Tillman was once again part of the closing rotation. That's something we've been focusing on, who's going to close basketball games. They went with the starters for the second straight game to close. Of course, this night, Tyus Jones was the starter because Ja Morant wasn't available. Then Jaren Jackson Jr. fouled out, and they kind of went offense-defense with Canard and Canard in the final minutes, where the Grizzlies, again, desperately tried to give the game away. Thankfully, Bane made 8 out of 10 clutch free throws. I mean, he started off 2 out of 4 on clutch free throws, which is bad, but then he made his final 6, so that's good, I guess. And the Grizzlies get that victory. Anyways, that is all I have for this game because, of course, the Grizzlies play again on Wednesday night, so I'll have a show out again tomorrow, wrapping up all the Grizzlies goodies. And remember, if you're in Nashville, don't miss the watch party this Friday at Noble's Beer Hall. The rest of you guys, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Appreciate everyone who's already done that. Anyways, have a great Wednesday. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.